Picking a career and deciding what you're going to do with your life is one of the most difficult things any of us have to do, right? Especially when you have multiple interests, like you have things that you like over here, things that you like over there, and you're not sure how to combine all of these into a career path that works for you and what you want to get out of life. Hey, I'm Adam if you're new here, and in this video, I want to get into the 6 P's of career planning. That's kind of what I'm calling it. And if you consider each of these, I think it becomes a lot easier to start thinking about your career path, and what you're going to do next. So let's just get into it. The first P is actually a precursor, but it is perhaps the most important thing I'm going to speak about in this video. And this is the idea that the process of finding a career path is iterative, right? It isn't just that you land on the perfect career path age 16 and you know exactly how everything's going to go. I'm going to do this and this and this and that's where I'm going to be. And I know it can be really difficult, especially if you're surrounded with people who've kind of always known what they want to do. Like they wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer since they were like 4. And you're sitting there thinking, I don't really know. Like I like this thing, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But it is literally that. Like you can come back to things, you're going to be exposed to new things, especially once you're out there in the world, once you're working, once you're at uni. Jobs that you didn't even know existed. I didn't even know a site reliability engineer existed as a position. I don't think it was when I was in high school. So that's really something I think you should take into consideration, because it really frees you up to think about things in a more fluid way, instead of as I'm going to pick this career now and that's what I'm doing for the rest of my life, and it's paralyzing. If you've seen the video where I talk about the defining decade, there is a whole big section about how paralyzing it can be when you think you're going to be locked in to something. So the next stage in career planning is to ponder, and there's kind of 2 elements to this. One I've kind of gone into in other videos about writing down your skills, your interests, your experiences, even shows that you enjoy, right? Do you know how many times I've met a doctor who has said that they are a doctor because of Grey's Anatomy? There's been a lot. Ask the next doctor you meet that's like under the age of 30, they're probably going to give you that answer at some stage. But all of these things, when considered, such as, you know, maybe your interest is nature or science, right? Maybe your skills are like weight training or programming, video editing, you know, there are a wealth of things. And then that is kind of your base, your starting base of things that I'm interested in and that we can work with perhaps to form a career path or to join one that already exists. But the second part of this kind of pondering exercise is something that I heard Ali Abdaal talk about in one of his YouTube videos, and it's the fast forward test. So say you land on a particular career, or you're thinking about a particular career, right? Like let's say being a scientist in a laboratory of whatever science, like a biomedical scientist. If you can fast forward through the daily tasks, the monthly tasks, and just get to the end point, and you feel relief at that, that may be a sign that that isn't the career path for you, right? If you just don't really want to get into the whole being in the lab, hypothesizing, doing the background research, doing the sample collecting and all of this stuff, if that stuff's not sounding great, but you really want to just get to the end result where you have a paper or you are able to impact decisions made by government with research and stuff like that, that could be a sign that it's not for you. Versus if you're really excited about the process, then that is a sign that this could be a potential career path for you. The next P in this process is people. Thinking about the level of interaction that you want to have with people on a day-to-day basis, whether you kind of want to be in a customer-facing role, which can look very different to somebody who's more behind the scenes. And again, this can help narrow down that kind of list of things you have going, interests and skills, into something more specific. Take working in tech, for example. Tech has become a huge term that means so much. It's such a big umbrella term, but there's so many things that you can do. So say you are somebody who's not perhaps so interested in a more customer facing role, right? Like the idea of having to deal with people on the spot with their varying attitudes, varying feelings, they might shoot questions at you and you're going to have to respond, may mean that you want a more kind of in the background role. Maybe you want to be a software developer and have less interaction with a client or a customer, but you're obviously still going to be talking with your colleagues and your teams, but there's more of a gap between you and say the public. Or perhaps on the other side, you love tech and your technical knowledge is really sharp or something that you want to develop, but you like people and you like the element of being in that kind of situation where, you know, you kind of have to think on the spot and, you know, look into the information that you have in your mind and come up with solutions and answers. In which case, perhaps being a solutions architect and working with clients is more of a path for you. See how both of these things are in tech, both of them require a technical understanding, but in terms of career paths, one is behind the scenes a bit more as a software developer, and the other is a lot more front-facing with clients. So getting a grip on how people-centric you want your job to be can really help. So the next P in this career planning process is paper. P's. money, basically, right? I had to kind of like manipulate some stuff to get that P to work, but you know what I'm saying here. And it might seem obvious on the surface, like obviously we're all trying to make money, we're trying to make as much money as possible, but that's kind of not the case, right? The importance of money at different stages is different for other people. Some people know the type of lifestyle they want to live, and they know that it's going to require a large sum of money, and so that the career that they choose is going to be influenced in part by that financial kind of trajectory, stipulation. Other people may be less interested in a large paycheck every month, or they may be willing to forfeit like the first 10 years, it go a bit slower, they get to do something they are passionate about that may not yield high amounts of money, but they're happy with that. For example, teachers. Teachers are not making peas like that, but some people absolutely adore teaching, and they adore being in a physical environment with students. And so that's going to be something that's less important to them when they're considering the pathway they're going to go down. Versus if I'm somebody who knows the life that I want to live is going to require me to be stacking, then I might start thinking things like tech, finance. And whilst this is not the only consideration, right? Like just money alone is not going to let you have a happy, successful career, I don't think, because you're going to become very disillusioned with the job or with the career path you're on, and it may actually impact your ability to grow and make more money. I will say as well that there are multiple ways, of course, to make money, and like careers are not necessarily linear, right, of course, and you may be doing one thing and you may have side hustles, or you may be somebody who's like all in into their position at work and they're growing through that sense, they're growing their financial pathway in that sense. So just know that things are open and they can swing around, but it's a consideration. So the next P is all about proficiency. And this is all about the skills that you're going to need to acquire to do that particular job. Now, again, I've spoken about this when I was talking about remote jobs, thinking about ways that you can access information that's not necessarily uni. It may be boot camps, it may be internships and things like that. But I found that when I thought about the position that I was going to do, right, and what I was going to have to put in to become proficient, that led me away from certain options. When I was younger, I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon. I loved science, I had the grades, the aptitude, and I thought, yeah, love that, being around people, I'm gonna be Dr. Me, it's gonna be great. Then I started to think, as it was time to pick my A-levels, I'm gonna be in medical school for around 6 years at minimum, and then the pathway is a lifelong learning in this particular field. And I quickly realized I didn't really like medicine that much. Like it wasn't going to be for me. And even just being able to think about the process, this is where thinking about the process, becoming proficient in this sense, it allows you to start to narrow things down. Because it's all well and good saying that you're going to be in tech, right? But if you don't really have an interest in technology and programming, and then becoming proficient and staying proficient, like are you going to be interested in watching, certain videos, reading articles, staying on top of trends that are happening with artificial intelligence and stuff like that, or design if you're going to go down the design route? If those things don't really excite you or make you feel interested about starting, that could be a signal as well. It's not necessarily, nothing is absolute in this, but these sorts of things together start to craft a picture of the pathways that may work for you in terms of career or not. Needless to say, my grandparents were unhappy with that decision to not be a doctor, but they love me anyway and I'm still me, so it doesn't matter. You also start to realize, and when you're forced to answer these questions, that maybe it's not that particular role that I want, but instead, can I pull out the features of that role that I like that may apply to something else? For example, with medicine, I knew that I wanted to objectively help people have a better life, have a positive impact on their life. I knew I wanted to be a lifelong learner and share that knowledge, be able to disseminate knowledge as I learned it and ingested it and processed it. But you quickly realize you don't have to do things one way. There's that horrible saying, like there's not one way to skin a cat, there's more than one way. I don't know who's skinning cats and like saying this stuff, but you get the saying, there's more than one way to get an outcome. And the final P, and I'll only briefly cover this because I have other videos on working remotely and stuff like that, but it's place. And this is all about how your physical location will impact the kind of job you want. Do you want to work in the city, and so you're looking at jobs that maybe are in the finance sense? Do you want to be able to work anywhere in the world, and so you're looking at jobs that can be done remotely? Do you want to be in a particular country, and so you may lean to careers that are more prominent perhaps, or maybe in line with the culture of a particular country? This is how place can impact the career path you choose and start to impact, again, narrowing down that list of interests into, okay, where do I want to be located? Will that restrict what direction I take and what pathway I go down? So those are the 6 Ps: the precursor, pondering, people, paper, proficiency, and place. And I hope by thinking about those in that sense, it can help if you've just got so much going on in your mind and you're not sure where to go next. I have a lot of videos talking about career. Some of them are more tech specific, some of them are thinking about remote jobs, but there are a number of things that you can watch next. I would suggest this one over here. See you in the next video.